Hi guys, Drew here from Redbeard's Workshop. First off, I want to apologize that it's been so long since I put out a video. I've been working on a few projects and just been having a hard time getting them completed. I first started working on an oil portrait for a very large fantasy style landscape that I'm making, and then I caught COVID. So unfortunately, I was down and out for a bit. Didn't really have the energy to work on things. I was trying to get better. But that project's going to be a bit long term anyhow. I thought, man, I need to get a video done for these guys. It's been way too long. So instead, I decided to make a quick video of building some houses for tabletop terrain. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. So I already started this before the summer and then worked on other projects, and now I have to rush to finish it because I didn't do anything in the summer. So the first two houses that I have are going to be partially broken houses, which the players can choose to go into and then use as cover and set an ambush if they hear enemies coming or something like that. So for these ones, I've got kind of a second level playable area right now. I'm going to be sealing this in with Modge, Podge, and then I'm also going to be placing large chunks of rubble and things like that are climbable inside here as well, using extra pieces of XPS foam and using some terrain gravel and such. To make this, it was really easy. I just cut out using foam core board. You can see it's got the soft little foam inside there. Whatever the shapes were that I needed, even little patterns for the outside. Then I just use regular cardboard for the base. And then to glue things together, this was probably overkill, but I'm weird. To make sure that the pieces held together once the glue was put in, I actually took little toothpicks and hammered them in through the outside into the foam core so that the pieces would stick together while the glue was drying. It, again, seems like overkill, probably a little silly, but it worked really well. And then I have another one where I cut out some more, demonic type stone pieces for the outside. The architecture of that building, obviously being from a different location, doesn't really matter all that much. But it's got a second level floor space as well. Same idea with the Rubble. This one has more intact walls than the other one does, so there'd be a little bit more cover there. So the idea is to place these next to each other or across the street on an actual larger gaming area. Aside from covering these up and filling in the rubble, I do want to make a more simple kind of like village home or like a small town home. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a box of Fancy Feast for my kitten's cat food, and we're going to cover this in XPS foam bricks, and then we're going to create a roof for the top of it. And I actually spent a couple hours one night just cutting up a ton of XPS foam into tiny little bricks. And I knew one day it would come in handy and there'd be a reason for it. And that reason has finally showed up, and that day is today. So sit back, relax, and let's get to some artwork. Alright, so we're going to start off by cutting out the sides of the walls for a kind of large stone medieval style tower that I'm going to build. So we're going to cut out both sides here, and I have to be very careful to make sure that when I'm cutting out the walls for the in-between pieces, because I'm using such thick XPS foam, I want to make sure that I cut those ones smaller. The width of this foam is 1 inch, so I have to cut the width of these walls 2 inches shorter than the width of the outside walls. That way, when I put the pieces together, all sides are even in width.
It's not a Redbeard's workshop video unless I screw something up, right? Despite my warning to you guys, yeah, I only made sure that I was compensating for 1 inch width for one of the pieces because I'm kind of dumb. But I went back in and cut off an extra inch to make sure that the pieces were all the same width when I put them together. So now I just measured and cut out a top piece to sit on top of the walls to be a kind of parapet area with some cover if players want to get up top there in any type of situation they might be in. We're going to place that on top of the tower. And what you're going to see here is a very basic technique for everyone who builds terrain pieces on their own out of XPS foam. What you want to do, whether you're going to use large square cement like stone bricks, or if you're going to use smaller kind of random shaped stones to build your walls, you want to first trace it out, and then you want to cut using a very sharp knife an outline of the shape, and then typically use a ballpoint pen or something with a bit of a rounded curve on it to then trace through the lines once again to deepen them and make it look a little bit more realistic, more 3D. And once we finish with that, we're going to use a rolled up ball of tinfoil and kind of roll it along the pieces to create a more natural stone look. And just go ahead and repeat that process for all of your stone walls, and then we will be able to roughen with the tinfoil, then put them together. Now, as I'm learning more about terrain building over time, I have in the past used this idea of sharpening toothpicks and using them to kind of skewer in between two pieces and kind of help hold them together. The reason I do this is more for structural support. The glue will bond the items together. I do this so that when I'm attaching things from multiple sides, that it's not going to shift and slide in the glue, and the things won't shift around, and the walls won't end up drawing on an angle. It is, however, difficult because sometimes it is harder to press your pieces flush together, because instead of cutting through the foam, that little piece might get wedged in a tough spot and prevent them from touching surfaces. So you don't have to take that step. Totally up to you. All right, and now we are going to begin work on our small village building. So I've taped together the angles and the different pieces of this fancy feast box to keep things together solid. And what we're going to do is slowly but surely attach all of my XPS foam bricks to the outside of the walls. We're eventually going to put a door on one of them and then get to work on the roof. And again, this is my first time attempting anything like this. I've seen people do things a lot easier with just basic cardstock and tongue depressors and stir sticks. We're trying something different, and if it doesn't work, we won't do it again. And if it's okay, maybe we will. So that's what the channel is all about. Let's just try something weird. Alright, and here I'm just making a shape that's going to go on the outside walls and hold up the roof. I have two pieces that fit inside the Fancy Feast of cardstock, and I'm going to use those for the base platform of the roof, and then I'm going to use identical pieces to cut out strips of the actual shingles themselves and layer them on top. Should be okay, even if I have to get a little bit creative to get everything attached. We'll see how it goes. Alright, now the piece of cardstock that I used to create the shingles was not quite wide enough to cover the entire section of the Fancy Feast box. In fact, even the triangular pieces I put in are a little bit not quite wide enough to cover the entire box itself. So to cover this remaining piece, I'm just cutting out some foam core board strips now to be a type of like edge material for the outside of the roof. Doesn't need to be that fancy, just needs to cover everything up so that it at least looks like it's even on both sides. Alright, now comes the very fun and messy part of the project. I am going to be covering all of these buildings with a mixture of Modge Podge and acrylic paints. I would usually like to do like a black color, a very dark color. It's much easier to apply dry brushing and washes and layers to adjust the color later on, but I like starting out with black because it's a little bit easier to work with, and you can see how your colors are going to look very strong on a black base. Alright, now this building is going to be from a different location than the others. It's going to be from a rougher part of the world, and I wanted the walls themselves to have a more rough appearance so that it looks like they were built in a different place. So for the walls and the way I'm going to paint the outside of this building, I'm mixing in some of my sand terrain and some of my rougher stones so that when it dries into the Modge Podge and the paint as I put it on the outside and on all the surfaces, it will look very rough and almost sharp to the outside. Alright, and I wanted to create some rubble inside these buildings, so what I've done here is taken some scrap pieces of foam core, some XPS foam, some bricks, and a little bit of the stone material, or the kind of sand terrain, and I'm going to mix it up with some Modge Podge and paint, and then pour this into the areas inside the building so it looks like pieces of broken down walls or ceilings.
Hey, Freya. Hi. What's up? Want to say hi to everybody? Want to say hi, little kitty? Alright, guys. Thank you very much for sitting along and watching the rest of the video with me. We were able to complete all 4 buildings. The 2 that I had started way back in the beginning of the summer is now kind of ready for paint and sealed up. We've got our tower piece, which can fit into multiple different terrains. And we have our first attempt at making a little village home, which obviously there are some mistakes in, but overall it looks pretty good. Now that I have them all sealed and built, the next video is going to be me painting them up and designing them. So please stay tuned, drop a like and subscribe, and I will be making another video where we finish these up. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.